One point of the an animated commission project that we are excited to introduce is this focus on workshopping and readings and creating more space between the commission of a work and its actual premiere. And so, this is not for everyone. It's definitely optional. Some works don't need this. Some composers would be horrified by the concept of, adding in, public or, other experimental elements to the process. But at the same time, I definitely have seen works that would benefit, both on the commissioner's side or do benefit on the commissioner's side and composers and publishers side from just creating some liminal space for, materials to just kind of take shape, be tried out, experimented with, that a composer would, I think, extremely value, and the commissioner, in terms of seeing a work take shape. And of course, there are many organizations, who have these kind of wet ink type series that allow for sort of visibility on the process of commissioning. I don't think that's anything new or innovative. All we're suggesting or thinking about in the discussion guide is how do we bring that into the actual sort of operational elements of the process, and saying, there may be benefits here in creating these kind of touch points for, the work being created to have some readings and workshop time, both, to benefit the composer and to benefit the commissioner. It might be a great opportunity for donors to come in, as we've seen. It may be a great opportunity for the composer to get feedback. So, not necessarily just assuming that the work needs to go from, commission to premiere, but that there can actually be some space in between. So that was really the idea behind this optional, language. And then how does that get compensated for? And what are going to be some of the rights that a composer or commissioner might walk away with as part of that workshopping stage? This is a common part of the theatrical development world. Is this something that we could incorporate within the concert world as well? Another element that I think, we focus on, or I've seen focus on in my practice, is, the not just the performance of the premiere, but the rehearsal stage. And, how is that process being thought about, with the conductor and the ensemble, the amount of time allotted to work on the program, and to work on the work, the new commission, to the extent that, it fits in. And I would sort of step back and say, on an organizational, space, as an attorney, I'm thinking about, if I were negotiating for my client as a composer, I want to ensure that they're going to have the best possible premiere of their work. And to me, that means giving them the most amount of rehearsal time, for that work to have the best possible performance. And I think, to me, that's kind of the balance of the question here, is how do we continue to create those circumstances, whether by contract or by expectation? Is it a point of discussion ahead of time, certainly relative to other works on the program, that the piece is being premiered around. So I think there's space in the conversation, again, for that to occur optionally by everybody involved. The not surprising elements, when is the premiere going to take place? And where is it going to take place? Kind of just those logistical elements, and having that thought through in terms of not just the world premiere, but will there be subsequent performances, regional premieres? Because from the composer's perspective, those regional premieres, either as a co-commissioning element or otherwise, are opportunities for more value to be derived from all the time and energy that has gone into the creation of this work. And so leaving some space in the conversation for that to occur as well. So timelines are a big part of the process, I think. And especially if there are going to be other elements built in, like development materials or workshop materials, for everybody to try to articulate some tentative, timelines that could be incorporated into the deal memo, I think would be helpful for managing and setting expectations. And those could be, adjusted by mutual agreement, but, having some theory, of what those timelines might be is, I think, an important part of the process. Interestingly, and I think I would just point out, as a copyright attorney, I'm often focused on the question of when the performance materials, have the parts, right, have actually been delivered, and the score has actually been delivered to the commissioning ensemble, because that triggers a data publication from a copyright perspective. So once the score has been delivered, that's a date to pay attention to, because for a composer to register their copyright within 3 months of publication, there are some additional benefits, from a statutory perspective to following that process. So just making note of that. And, if you are a self-published composer, paying attention to the data publication or data delivery of the score is something to be mindful of in your kind of overall catalog. But more generally, obviously, this is going to be driven by the timelines and demands of the commissioning organization and ensemble. And so having some sense of how these pieces are going to fit together, this is the space in which to do that. And it changes. As we know, there could be many circumstances. And I think what I'm often advising composers of is just to be upfront and to be, transparent about what's taking place, so that everybody can make adjustments as necessary. Well, I think not surprisingly, changes are like inevitable. And so the question becomes not only just sort of encouraging communication about it, but having something in writing that specifies, what everybody's agreed to, and that it's amending, either the delivery requirements or the premiere dates, just sort of, being clear about what portions of the agreement are being adjusted as a result of changed circumstances. So I think that's not only par for the course, but I think appropriate for everybody to document in writing. Well, I think when I'm looking at an agreement for a composer or a publisher, for that matter, I'm thinking about, how the compensation terms are not only negotiated, but also what are the payment timelines. And we pay very close attention to what triggers what payment and when. And so knowing commissioner and composer that those are negotiable points. Is there a payment triggered on the signing of the agreement? How much? By how many days will the payment be received once the agreement is signed? Is there a payment triggered by the delivery of the manuscript, even if it hasn't been transitioned or turned into parts yet? Or is another payment triggered by delivery of the score and parts? And then how long after delivery of the score and parts, number of days or number of weeks, will payment be delivered? All of those are points that can be incorporated into a deal memo or commissioning agreement. So as with everything, it's negotiable. The point is just to try to be upfront and clear about what the expectations and needs are. And especially if a composer, a self-published composer, is relying on receipt of payment to pay a third party for parts production, you may want to specify that in the agreement.